Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the WNESU School Board meeting.
So let's call to order the meeting, a special meeting of the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union Board at noon on Monday, June 12th, at the central office and also by Zoom. I think you've given me the list of those people who are there. Can you help get a quick count of the voting members of the SU board?
Seven, 8 with you.
Okay, so we're barely there.
Yes.
Eight of 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with that, you've made the introductions for folks. Thank you for that. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any adjustments now.
Okay, any communications and public comment?
Yes, I have communication and public comment. Cheryl, David Clark here.
Thanks, David. Go ahead.
Handout for the board. Those of you who are in Zoom will be receiving an email very shortly. And Cheryl, I want to begin by pointing out that at 4:37 in the afternoon last Thursday, all boards received a communication that the bids which are about to be under consideration at this table at this time have been opened at 12:30, and that a meeting had been warned on the following Friday for 12 o'clock. That presupposes that that meeting had been warned before 12 o'clock on Thursday, but at this point, that is not necessarily germane to the points that I'm about to make. We subsequently received communication from the superintendent of schools indicating that that meeting had been canceled and rescheduled. And the reason given was because the reformer did not post notice on time. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. It's very curious to me that a meeting which is arguably pivotal for all schools in the district was quietly rewarned strictly to SU board members only. I do not think that that was accidental, but that's just me talking. And it does for me raise a procedural question, which I'm hoping nobody thinks I'm trying to create a roadblock here. But that procedural question is where did the local boards cede their authority to the supervisory union board to act on their behalf? I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, but I think that you would have, strictly speaking, needed an action from those local boards to assign their authority over building projects in their building to this group here. Now, I want to back up. I want to back up to that suggestion that, and this is the language from email from the superintendent of schools at 6:39 p.m. We had posted the meeting and sent it to the reformer on time, but they did not post it within the required time frame. Well, I refer to you to Vermont statutes annotated. It's noted at the bottom of the page, and I'm not sure if it's traveled out in email here yet or not, but it's about to if it hasn't. And that is this language from Title I, Chapter 005, Common Law General Rights. Municipal public bodies shall post notices of special meetings in or near municipal clerk's office and at least 2 other designated public places in the municipality at least 24 hours before the meeting. There is no mention there of notification to the press. I think that that was an unfortunate characterization, which frankly is a continuation of a pattern of either, well, I'd just come right down and say antagonism on the part of administration toward the press, which I think bluntly disadvantages all the boards in this district because it has a material effect on our access to media to tell our side of the story. And I think it's very unfortunate. The characterization of the reformer being responsible for the snafu is unfortunate. And the continued behavior, this is certainly an important meeting, not noticed to the press, not noticed to other board members. That's a bad practice. And I need to put that marker down right here and right now. Thank you very much, Cheryl.
Well, David, thank you for your comments. Let me say that at the last meeting of the Supervisory Union Board on May 8th, the decision was made to hold the next special meeting to open the bids, to review the bids on June 9th. And so I was among those who discovered on June 9th that inadvertently we had not, or at least the meeting had not been properly warned. When all of that was figured out on Thursday evening, then it was within relatively quick order that administration did reschedule the meeting for this time and this date, and I understand properly warned it. So that's where we are now. I wonder if there are any other comments from others about the points that David has made.
I will just.
I personally don't think that this has been intentional on the part of administration at all. I do think it's an unfortunate circumstance. And the question you raise about proper notification by the individual districts and boards, it's my understanding that the Supervisory Union Board does have the authority to make the decisions that are on the table on the agenda today. I don't know if you're proposing that this meeting be canceled.
No, not at all, Cheryl.
Okay,
It's an important
okay,
meeting.
thank you.
I'm just sorry that it didn't, in my judgment, be noticed to the boards, because it certainly has a direct impact on boards.
Right, I don't know how that happened. Administration might want to answer. I don't believe it was intentional. But
So-
let's hear what they have to say about that.
We warned this meeting and notified, board members, very similar to how we've done every single thing up until this point. And was not aware of, this piece, so, we will make every effort to make sure we follow through. There was no intentionality of blaming the reformer. It was my understanding that that was one of the ways that we needed to do it. I've now been, educated on that's not what we're supposed to do, so we will make sure that we don't do that. As far as warning all the boards, I think we've gotten into a practice of trying to send things out. It went out to all board members, just for transparency purposes, but it is a meeting of the SU board. It's an expenditure of grant funds, which is, under the jurisdiction of the SU. So this is more just notifying the board of, working with them on putting getting this construction management on. We have openly spoken at all of our board meetings that we are looking to bring on a construction management team, to carry out, all of these, different projects. And frankly, as we get to the different projects, we have to get board approval for each one of the projects. So it's not just the construction management, but when we go to expend funds at the school, we must get that board's approval before we can expend funds on their building. So.
Can I just say one thing? I do appreciate the eloquence of your oratories, David, but I'm on my lunch break. Like I think I'm one of the few board members who's still working. And so if we could be really efficient in our vocabulary today, that would be very helpful for me. Because I am working. And if we're having special.
On our lunch break team.
Okay, so let's be efficient when we're speaking. That would be great for respect for time for the board members.
Thanks, team. Are there any other communications and public comments? All right, with that, let's move ahead to the old business for discussion and action, the review and approve the request for proposals. We've all received the two proposals that have been submitted. So with that, I'm not sure if Steve Horton is there, Andy, but would you carry us through the action we need to take?
Yeah, I'm actually going to turn it over to Steve. He is here, just to let him speak,
Perfect.
on the two that we received.
Thank you so much.
Hi,
Great.
Cheryl.
Hi, thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, there's a history behind these proposals. I know in the interest of time, I won't dwell on that. I will say that we have been in regular contact with the state regarding proper procedures in hiring a construction manager. To date, it's our opinion that we followed all of those procedures, and we were fortunate. I say that in the context of past COVID, past pandemic situation, supply chain and lack of labor. We were fortunate to receive 2 construction manager proposals. I had reached out to many more, and we had publicly advertised. 2 pre-qualified. These are the 2 that we received these proposals from. The format in the response is a spreadsheet creation that I generated in order to be able to assess the responses when they came in. I have created a summary spreadsheet. I don't know, Andy, if you can screen share that maybe. I sent it to you around 11:30-ish, if that's possible. While you're doing that, the 2 CM respondents were DEW and Hutter. DEW is both in Vermont and New Hampshire. They have offices in both. And Hutter is in New Hampshire. Both have a very large background in public school work, hundreds of millions of dollars. I have worked with both of them a fair amount, and both are excellent firms. I'm absolutely positive that if anybody reached out for references, they'd get nothing but good references. Both team submissions in the RFP, the folks involved, they were both the A team, if you will, from my experience. But when it comes down to the state, their qualifications are mostly generated around numbers. So we spent quite a bit of time structuring the RFP responses so that the receipted numbers would be clear and comparable. This is a summarized spreadsheet of the results. I chose pastel colors. I'm just kidding. So the delineation is by color. The top row, of course, is the explanation. By the way, GCs are called general. That's an acronym for general conditions. And for those of you that may not be familiar with what general conditions are, they're what is required to complete a large construction project, such as the supervisory staffing, both project manager, superintendent, and perhaps a foreman. Things as mundane as toilets, temporary toilets, phones, paper, printers, etc. They're all things you don't get to keep when the project's done, if you will. Okay. So there, as you can see in the gray, this is our funding allocation per project. And we will be reporting, as Andy said, to each school board and back to the state eventually based on each project as delineated here for approvals. So on the top row, there is the funding allocation amount. And in the second row, Hutter is in light blue. You will see that their general conditions for the high school is $351,000. That's based on $5,850 per week. As we move across to the right, you'll see there's a fee of 3.5% for the high school. And then, of course, as we go across entirely across the page, you'll see each particular center project and their general conditions. You see one thing noted worthy is in Westminster Center and Grafton. You'll note that Hutter does not have general conditions in those projects, and that is not because they aren't going to work on those projects, but they consider the team that they had at the high school capable of managing these quick and smaller pieces of work at the same time. So there will, in other words, it's within that particular, which is what we want. that's good for us, not bad for us, in my opinion.
So how do we charge Westminster Center and Grafton their portion from the high school? Cause the high
Wendy-
school's paying for it all?
Yeah, no, the high school wouldn't pay for it. When we do get the estimates for each piece of work, you know, a breakdown like electrical, mechanical, we'll be sure to contain that in each piece.
I think the other thing to note is not one district is paying for any of this.
No,
No, but what's
grant money.
it's all grant money. It's all one big pool.
right, but,
It's just breaking it down by
It's
site.
reported.
but I'm assuming you have to
We do.
report it
We
to
do.
the state as a
Correct.
breakdown.
We do.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's a really good question. Yeah. So you can see as we go over to the far right-hand column, the total for Hutter for their combined fee and general conditions is $997,850. Which is about, I didn't do the math, but it's a little over 6%, 67%. For those of you. Thank you. There's a man in the know, because I was gonna say, for those of you in the know, 10% is a good buy. Okay, so we've got a very good buy with us. As we go down to the next row, DEW, you'll notice that there's significant difference in prices. And there's nothing, that's not, I don't mean in any way, should not disparage DEW. It does indicate that they're probably very busy. And it is a sign of the times and a sign of the market. And it's also a sign of mid-June when certain companies have got more than they can do. And they were fortunate enough to respond to us so that we do have a comparable. But you can see that their numbers are significantly higher. And I won't bother to belabor each point, but you can see a fee of 5.75 versus a fee of 3.5%. So all the way across the board, it's much more. And then when we get to the far right, it's more than double what Hutter is. Any questions?
So is your recommendation to go with Hutter, I presume?
I was just gonna, if you don't have any questions, I'd like to make the recommendation to go to Hutter. Again, I have everything good to say about that.
Then I just hear, Steve, that you have made the recommendation to hire Hutter. And Andy, you concur with that recommendation?
I do.
All right, thank you. Then I think we can entertain a motion to accept the bid of the Hutter Corporation for the construction management services. Did I state that properly? Help me if I did not.
Cheryl, Jason had a question.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's have a motion on the floor if we might, and then discussion, unless, Jason, your question precedes the act of making a motion.
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
All right, thank you. I didn't get the names, but someone there would, I'm sure.
Jiggs made the motion and Karen seconded.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, discussion, please.
I had a question, Cheryl.
Sure, go ahead.
So the numbers look almost too good to be true. In my experience, too good to be true is a warning. So what's the catch? And the second thing is, are they guaranteed to complete the work?
Okay, I don't know what the catch is. I don't think there is a catch. I used to run McMillan Company. So I know these numbers inside and out because I made 500 RFPs myself. I may exaggerate by 100, but I probably looked at another 500 in my career as owner's representative. I have seen these differences many times before. The thing to look out for is the general conditions. The fee is not, the fee 3.5% is a healthy fee. And that's a percentage that's not going to change. At the time of the estimates is the time to analyze those numbers again. And when you have the breakdown, to $100 of every time.
And you feel very strongly that this all looks legit and they do have good references.
It's all.
And Andy, you feel comfortable with that as well? Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. We're good.
All right, any other questions or comments? Any other discussion?
I am not seeing any hands.
All right, then let's call for a vote and begin with those people who are joining by Zoom. And could you help me with that,
Sure.
Andy, since I
So-
can't see
so
the screen?
I'll go how they are on the screen for me. I have
Okay.
Lynn Morgan. Who's
How do you vote on the motion,
muted.
Lynn?
Nope, she's muted.
There we go. Clarify what we're voting on was the going with Hutter. Is
That's
that what?
correct.
That's
Yes.
correct. Okay, it's a yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and then in the room, Cheryl, I'll just start going around. Jason,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Jigs,
Yes.
and I would just
And,
leave yourself.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, well, thanks everybody, and a special thanks to Steve Horton for the thorough process, all the work you've done to really assist us with this. And I know Andy's been involved as well. And we're grateful that we actually got two comprehensive proposals. So thank you for all of that. And Steve, anything else you want to say about next steps in the process as we proceed?
May I? Yeah. And then we'll tag team this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, next steps would be to, I'm seeking approval from this board and Andy at the same time, but next steps would be to notify Hutter of the intent to try to create a contract with them, subject to state approval. We have to, I think we now have to go to the state with this info first.
Yeah, so we still have, because we got under 3 bids and it's over $40,000, so we have to request a bid waiver. We had primed the AOE ahead of time that we'd be coming with this, and so I'll be submitting that, very shortly after this meeting, and then giving them a call to see if I can get them to move it up on their docket. So.
In the meantime, however, I'd like to suggest that I get a hold of Hutter and begin a contract, the writing of a contract. That takes some time in parallel. Our primary objective is to get the work started as soon as we can. We have a lot of work to do between now and a year from September. And the biggest piece of the work is at the high school, and the biggest concern that I have is the HVAC equipment. Some of that stuff is 30 weeks out. We still have to bid all the HVAC work, then we have to order the equipment, then we have to hope for arrival. So I would not want to lose the next 2 weeks while we wait for the state, if you will. So with your permission, I'd like to move forward with the intent. Make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
That certainly makes sense to me. I don't know that we need a formal motion, but if the room thinks we do, we can do that.
David has a question, Cheryl.
Go ahead, please.
Steve, are you aware that ME Engineering had 2 proposals on the table for HVAC at the high school? One was a complete rehab, and the other was to repair what was there. It's a huge difference in price.
I am not aware of that. I would be happy to have that information. If that's available from some.
I have the report.
Okay,
Available for you.
thank you. I think it's going to be good information. I don't know that without approval from the board, again, change course from replacing versus repairing. Right now, we're planning on replacing.
At least a 7-figure difference between the 2.
Understood, but I think we'd have to go backwards to change our minds. I'd be happy to read the study and make a recommendation.
And I have one more question, Steve.
Yeah.
PCBs. How can PCBs affect these projects?
Well, if they're found, then they can profoundly affect not only these projects, but the buildings themselves. I do know that the state is planning on doing a PCB study at the high school.
It's happening
We're-
today, tomorrow, and Wednesday.
Yeah. So we're on track
There were
for
two
that.
guys there when I dropped.
In addition to that, we will also be looking for other hazardous materials. We've already researched what they call the AHERA reports, which is asbestos reports in the building, and the other buildings will be working. So we are on top of that. And all we can do is something.
A question for the superintendent. Andy, when do you anticipate having those, the PCB report back on the high school? I say this, with the fact that Burlington is doing a tear down on their high school because of PCBs. And I would hate to see the high school in a situation where it begins a building project, finds out that it's a much larger project.
So they don't give us a date for when, they anticipate that it'll be back. Even if it were to come back and there were PCBs, there's, different mitigations, that they're now, recommending as opposed to a complete tear down. They've said that if you applied the standards that they're applying today, to Burlington would have closed like a couple of classrooms. So, and my understanding is there's a bill being pushed through to suspend all of it as we speak. It hasn't already been signed by the governor, so.
I think I have electronic listing from your line. Thank you. I have the, folder.
You have my email, I think.
Or I don't know if I can.
I can give that to you.
I can't hear right now. What's going on?
David just gave Steve his card so they can share the Emmy.
HVAC.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think then, are there any other questions or comments at this time? I think with respect to next steps, as was outlined, it's normal procedure for Andy to go ahead and file the request for waiver. And I think it's kind of common sense for Steve to reach out to the firm that we will be brought back any actual contracts. So unless anyone thinks otherwise, I think this is normal procedure and doesn't require an additional motion.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So with that, I think, are we ready? It looks to me like, I think there are no other reports, which was number 6 on the agenda, and we can do a quick round of director's comments. Is that where we are?
We are.
Thanks. Anyone left? I can't see who's ready to speak. So anyway,
I'll run through. Lynn?
thank you.
No,
Any director's comments, team?
Oh, sorry. No, thanks.
Karen?
Yes, thank you for all the work.
Jason?
No.
June?
No, thank you.
Chris?
No.
Jigs? Nope. That's to you, Cheryl.
Nope. Thank you very much. Well, with
All
that, I think we can adjourn the meeting. And thanks again, everybody. Thank you for being timely and responding. And we'll adjourn at 12:29. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time today.
Bye-bye.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.